Hey everyone, Jake Berlin here from Apocalypse Movies, and 2022 is almost over, which means a brand new year of movies is just around the corner. And that means that I am here to give you my most anticipated movies of 2023. 2023 is going to be a massive year for movies. The calendar is stacked with properties every single month, and that means that quite a bit are going to be left off of our list. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number 10 is John Wick Chapter 4. How can I not have this movie on the list? Now, I will say John Wick Chapter 3 kind of went just a tad bit too far with some of its stunts and action, but that doesn't mean I'm not excited for these movies. Keanu Reeves kills it as this character. The story is always interesting, and quite honestly, we are just here for the kills. The trailer was fantastic. It's diving much more into the lore, and it looks like this character is not going to be stopping anytime soon. You have the same director, you have the star, you have the same characters coming back. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to with this. Really, you know what you're getting into when you're going in to see this movie. And even though it is 10 on my list, that does not mean that I'm not ecstatic about it. Moving on to number 9, and that is Creed 3. The Michael B. Jordan directed sequel of this franchise has me all kinds of excited. With the departure of Rocky, you obviously have to get someone who can cover just a tad bit of that ground. And while it's not going to be everything, they went and got Jonathan Majors as the bad guy. We have a trailer for this movie, and it looks incredible. I think that it very much feels like the Creed franchise, like the Rocky franchise. It's going to be interesting to see what happens without Rocky being in there, right? Sylvester Stallone is not coming back, but you have Tessa Thompson. You obviously have Michael B. Jordan. I mentioned Jonathan Majors. Really, a lot of the pieces are there for this to be a fantastic threequel in this franchise. I do think that this could possibly be the last one, which is why Michael B. Jordan may have wanted to direct this movie, right? We're 8 years into this franchise. How much longer can it really go? Rocky obviously went for a very long time, but you don't want to push it too far past its heyday. I think it's going to be an absolute banger. I cannot wait to see these action scenes in this ring. Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan going after another. Sign me up. Number 8 is the first Marvel movie on my list, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I know this might come much to a shock for many of you, but this movie is very high up on my list for a reason, right? There's many, many movies that are coming out next year. So 8 should not be a knock on where it is. The only reason why it is 8 and maybe not something like 5 or 4 is because I wasn't the biggest fan of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. While I really did like the movie, I thought the jokes were just a little bit too much compared to the first movie, how it felt very much more fluid. And with the emotional center of 3, I have a feeling it might get back around to what the first movie did. James Gunn directing is obviously a massive hit. We just got the holiday special, which was a total success. And this is quite possibly the last time we're ever going to see these characters together as a team. And you have the introduction of Adam Warlock. And all of us should be very, very excited for this. You have Will Poulter bringing this character to life. And this guy is going to be here for a very long time. Plus, that trailer looked incredible. The visuals are always a treat. And let's not forget that it is James Gunn's final farewell to the MCU before he moves on to DC. Number 7 is the David Fincher film, The Killer. Now, many of you may not have heard about this movie, but this is going to be a Netflix movie that comes out later in 2023. It's been quietly filming over the last year or so. It stars Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton, and it's based on a graphic novel that Fincher's been trying to bring to life for the past 15 years. Now, I don't have to say much to sway you for a David Fincher film, but that whole passion project thing should get you very, very excited. Not only that, but this is the first time that he and his writer from Seven have reunited since that film. And we all know how that ended up. Seven is one of the greatest films ever made. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. And the fact that they are reuniting for the first time since then, it kind of sets us up for some massive success. Not only that, but it's a neo-noir thriller with Fassbender and Tilda Swinton about assassins. Like, come on, you should be excited for this one. Number 6 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't have to say much for everyone to get excited about this movie. This movie is doing a lot. Not only are we fully engulfing ourselves in everything in the quantum realm, which is what the future of the MCU looks like, but we are finally getting the introduction of one Kang the Conqueror, the next big bad of the MCU. There's no way you can't be excited for this movie. Whatever you may think about the second or the first movie, this one's going to change your perspective completely because Peyton Reed went to Marvel and said, hey, I need this to do this movie, and they basically gave him the kitchen sink. We only know tidbits of the quantum realm, and like I said, it is the absolute future of everything we're going to be playing with in the MCU. Obviously, there's a lot of storylines going on with like the multiverse, and you have the horror side with all the supernatural. the quantum realm seems to be the richest of them all. And let's not forget that there's a possibility of the debut of the Fantastic Four. And as we move into the top 5 of my most anticipated movies of 2023, it is the final comic book movie on my list, and rightfully so. It goes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I really don't have to say much about this movie. The first movie was an absolute hit, but it also surprised the hell out of many. The animation was fantastic, the story was even better, and it kind of raised the ability of what Spider-Man movies can do overall. Now we're 5 years into the future, picking back up with these characters and jumping off into something completely different from anything in this Spider-Verse franchise. Not only that, but it could very well be laying the groundwork for Miles Morales and possibly others to jump into live action down the road. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the third film is titled Beyond the Spider-Verse, so keep a lookout. Number 4 of my 2023 list goes to Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit off the Christopher Nolan bandwagon as of late. I was not much of a fan of Tenet. Dunkirk was good, but it wasn't great in my opinion. So it's been a little bit since he's kind of been able to get back to the whole Christopher Nolan track record for myself. I understand that there's hardcore Nolan people out there, which I totally get it. He's one of the greats today. We have Martin Scorsese, we have Quentin Tarantino, we have Christopher Nolan, we have Denis Villeneuve. I mean, he is one of the absolute haymakers of today. So anytime one of his movies comes around, you have to be excited. They're event films. They're movies that everyone goes to, and Oppenheimer is going to be no different. But for me, what makes this movie so exciting is that it's based on historical events. He's not toying with time or space. He's actually basing all of this off of something that happened in our past. You also have one of the best casts you will ever see, which is led by Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, to just name a few. It very well might be Christopher Nolan's best cast. But I do expect Oppenheimer to be pretty well done. I really, really thoroughly expect it to be one of the best films of next year. As we move into my top 3, these 3 could be shuffled in any order they would like, but I am starting that off with number 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I really don't have to say much about this. If you follow us here on Apocalypse, you know how much I love this Mission Impossible franchise. And not just that, but how all out Tom Cruise goes for us viewers. Now, we saw what he did with Top Gun Maverick last year and how absolutely successful that was. He's been doing that for years for Mission Impossible, and I don't think Dead Reckoning is going to be any different. It's also really cool because it's a continuation kind of what came before with Rogue Nation and Fallout. There's going to be some character differences, obviously, but we're carrying over many of the characters we've met before with some brand new additions led by Haley Atwell. Peggy Carter herself is jumping into Mission Impossible, and it's absolutely fantastic. The trailer was incredible, action-packed, and let's talk about that stunt. Every time Tom Cruise steps into a movie, he does some impossible, crazy stunt, and it is no different here. He is jumping a motorcycle off of a cliff. Real life motorcycle off a real life cliff, and he did it 6 times. This dude goes all out for this franchise, and that is why they are so good. It is authentic. It may not be realistic, but you know that they are putting their absolute all into it. I also believe that Christopher McQuarrie is one of the best action directors of today. This franchise is one of the best action franchises we have today, and they're for a reason. They put their all-out work into it, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Part 2. Number 2 on my list goes to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. You can already see the smirk on my face while I'm talking about this movie. Indy is everything to me, and now that we are finally getting a conclusion to this character, I cannot be more excited. There are many things to love about this movie. The trailer surprised the hell out of not just me, but many, many people who were not just indie fans. It looks real, authentic Indiana Jones. James Mangold is the first director to step into this franchise that isn't named Steven Spielberg. And while that is a big deal, he looks like the perfect guy to tackle this franchise. In my opinion, he has 2 absolute bangers on his track record over the last couple of years with Logan and Ford v Ferrari. And I don't think this is going to be any different. Alongside Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, we also have Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen, who is playing a Nazi villain. How perfect of casting can that absolutely be? I'm very interested in seeing what all this Dial of Destiny is about. I hope it's not time travel, but if it is, I expect them to do it very well. There's a lot of things to love. You're in the backdrop of the space race. He is fighting Nazis again. We have some incredible de-aging going on, and it is officially Harrison Ford's final time playing this character. And the number 1 movie on my most anticipated list of 2023 goes to Dune Part 2. There should be no surprise here, especially if you're a fan of apocalypse movies. I talk about not just Dune, but Denis Villeneuve way too much on this channel. There is not a film of his that I do not like, and Dune is up there with the absolute best. And now that we're getting into the second movie, where all the setup is kind of done, we now know where we're at with these characters, or the very few of them, I should say. We're now diving into a much more political driven action-esque time with these characters. We also have some great casting additions, which are led by Florence Pugh and Austin Butler, who are going to join Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya as we adventure with these characters down the road of Dune. But when it comes down to it, I just trust Denis. I just trust what he does as a storyteller, what he does as a writer, how he can develop characters, just everything, the spectacle, the cinematography, everything about it is as top notch as you can get. He's my favorite working director today. I personally think that he is the best director on the planet. That is just my opinion. But like I said earlier, there is not a film of his that I do not like. I go into these movies, expecting a certain thing, and it delivers every single time. I cannot wait to see Dune Part 2. I hope it leads to very many more of these. I would love to stay along with these characters for years to come. But whether that's the case or not, Dune Part 2 is going to continue this story, and it's going to bring a lot to this franchise, and I'm very, very excited to see it. There you have it, my most anticipated movies of 2023. Quite a list, and a lot that were actually left off of it. I had a very hard time putting my list together. It is very difficult to talk about our most anticipated movies of each year because there are just so many to choose from, and I don't want to discredit any of those that aren't on the list, and I'm excited for all of them equally, but these are the 10 that I'm looking forward to the most. As we continue our list here on Apocalypse, make sure you're checking out all of the crew's lists. We have Geo, which was released yesterday. Brian, Jacob, and Keith are coming up a little bit later this week. And keep an eye out. We are going to be revealing our top movies of 2022 the first week of January. Those lists will be coming out very soon as well, where we're going to be ranking every movie, or at least our favorites, in 2022. Make sure you head down to the comment section. Let me know which movies you're looking forward to the most, as well as checking out Apocalypse Now every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Pacific right here on the channel. It is our weekly movie hangout show, so we're not just talking about the biggest box office or biggest movies coming out, but we're talking about movies like this as well. How much we're excited for them, talking about trailers. We're doing fantasy drafts, all kinds of fun things. You should go and check it out. Of course, hit that subscribe button. We'd really love for you to join us along this journey. So again, thank you so much for joining me on my most anticipated list of 2023. I am Jake Berlin, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.